So small crowd, that's okay. I've only got a few sessions left, so figure some of you die-hard folks will come along with me for the last of it, but we'll see.
Till the
Um,
bitter end.
Till the bitter end. Hopefully it's not too bitter. Um, and it means that I get to spend some time focusing on the class book, so then that'll get moving. So anybody have anything they would care to share that they've been working on or that they have open questions on?
No.
I have a couple of things. I just sort of dragged them out of the box because they're unfinished.
That is the
Let's
nature of the
see
beast.
how well you can see this. This is a fold formed piece.
Yep.
Okay. So it's got a shark's tooth in it.
Move it a little bit more center on your nose than, yeah, and up a little bit. Yep. You can actually scoot back a ways from the camera and we'll see it even more. There you go.
Okay.
Beautiful.
All
So that's
right.
a shark tooth stuffed in there.
Yeah, it's a shark's tooth in there.
What a cool capture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it isn't set yet. And
Okay.
what I'm not thrilled about is I've made it's a pin pendant. Can you see
Mm-hmm.
that?
Yeah.
But this is super light. And this is fairly wide and heavy. So
Yeah.
before I close it down and put the tooth securely in there, I'm wondering if I should rebuild this. And I put a flare on it, and I like
Mm-hmm.
that. And I like, the curly Q and down to the pin.
But it's copper, isn't it? That
It
pin.
is. And it's,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I could go ahead and do it in silver. It's, it's just a little bit of metal and make
I
it wider and maybe
yeah.
some more with that flare.
The only thing less secure than silver for a pin is copper. It's just
Right,
not going to keep its work hardness. So I think and your spring. I think you
right.
might want to change it out for that reason alone.
Okay. All right. Well, and I like what I did up here, and I could
Yeah.
play with that, make that even wider or twist it more or do something so that it will maintain its integrity. Because every time I play with it, I'm like, there's something I'm not working for me.
So
So,
the other thing to remember is you can copper plate things. So
correct.
you
Yeah.
could make it certainly out of silver and sterling and copper plate it. I don't know if you can easily copper plate steel. I think you might have to electroplate it instead of just like the usual pickling version, the acidic electroplate, like you might have to get the diodes devices to get it to stick. I don't know. I've never tried it or know anybody who's copper plated steel, but it theoretically is possible.
Well, the other thing I could do, I guess, is I could take a piece of sheet to
Yep.
make this piece and
Mm-hmm.
then have a wire that either taper, I don't want it too heavy as a pin,
Right.
even though a lot of the pins I make, I find work better with a jacket or a sweater, not a blouse,
Yeah.
because
I can buy that. Yeah, I do that a lot too.
yeah,
So,
so
so if you're going to hide it anyhow, you might want to just do a steel pin and nest it underneath the copper, whatever you make.
that's
Because then
right.
you'll be able to keep it thin, but still it'll be super spiky and strong.
Right.
And it certainly will have its coil.
I could even maybe rivet something and have it come up and down
Yeah.
is another option.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Anybody have other thoughts besides me yapping all the way?
Trying to think of a way to make the top part pretty and have the steel come out of the copper. Hmm.
I mean, you're trying to keep it as both a pin and a pendant, I assume, which is why you did the coil at the top the way you did. Or is it
yes.
okay?
Yeah. I mean, I like
Can't,
multifunction. It's a feature you can sell, right? You
Yep.
get more use out of it. It's the kind of thing you could build a stand for to make it a sculpture,
Yeah.
depend on. So I like the idea of plating the silver. That's actually a good idea. And then I could easily do something in sheet here with more width to complement this here, and then do wire that I can harden more. I could use nickel actually, right?
Yeah, and nickel might plate copper better than might plate better than steel now that I think about it. So nickel should be a binding agent
Right.
to
That's
copper.
yeah. Well, those are good suggestions because it's just something fun. It's
Yeah, yeah.
it's not my
Betsy, I
best.
sort of cut. I'm sorry, I keep cutting people off today. I've been in meetings since 7 a.m., so I'm yapping too much. I cut
Not
you off, and then I cut Betsy off earlier. So, Nancy, did you have more?
No, you
Oh,
didn't.
okay.
anyway. So this is something that is in the box that I want to finish. So that gives me
Can I see the back of it? Just the pin part? Hmm. Because I'm
It
trying to
could
think of a
also
way to
go ahead.
just
I'm cutting you off again.
I'm thinking of a way to kind of keep the top part, but have some kind of either nickel or steel incorporated under it so you don't see it on top or from the front, but you have it in the back.
I wonder if
Um,
I wonder if a double pin along the sides, sort of hidden under the fold.
that's not a bad
um,
idea either. It actually would allow it to stabilize and if it comes down on the two sides, then
Yeah.
yeah,
we'll hold it against the cloth a lot more securely instead of doing this.
It would also avoid something you're going to get when it's in pendant form, which is it's going to tip, 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 tip across the pin back.
Right, right.
mm,
Okay. Those are all great ideas. I mean, it's not like I have a lot of work or value in it in that sense, but it's fun and I like it and it's been sitting there for a long time. So, investing another hour or two is no big deal to have something. Sometimes, honestly, I find that I'll have something in my booth that people go, ooh, ah, and it draws them in, whether they buy
yeah.
it or not. It
Yeah.
doesn't, buy the $40 thing. It works for me. you know. So,
Yeah.
Hmm.
But a
okay.
sharp tooth is really a cool piece. I keep seeing it as like a cocoon right now. Every time
Yeah.
you pick it up, like front facing. It's very cool.
Well, I love fossils and I collect a lot of fossils, and this is actually a partial tooth. So, I can pick this up for a couple of dollars at the rock show. And,
Nice.
it's like I say, I don't have a lot invested in it, and it's something playful.
Yeah.
And, you know, so
Fun.
um
You said you had a couple things?
yeah, I
Something else?
do. So these are earrings. I've made several pairs like this. Sometimes I round them, sometimes I leave them straight, sometimes I add more to them. And I just wanted to see if there are any other ideas. I mean, this is as simple as it gets, but there's so many ways you can play with it, you know, because you can make it a hoop, a half a hoop, you can bring it
That's
up.
so that's what you meant by rounding. You're tucking them back on themselves.
Yes, exactly.
Nice. Are you doing them only in silver?
No, I've done them in gold too.
Okay. And have you done them with variations on the stones?
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I don't even know what I'm going to put in here, but it's probably a 5 millimeter, and I'll dig through the boxes and see what appeals to me. So, um, but
Have
I
you done
just,
a version that's not post out of it? So have you done in the earwire version?
no. And that's where I probably would, if I was going to make this into like a hoop that has a J-lock wire, right? That goes from here and attaches at the back, right? If I round this all the way up, that's another option of something I could do.
Yeah.
That's an idea.
Any other ideas from the crowd?
No, they're nice because they're very simple, but but they're there, that's
Right. Well, that's why I call this a foundation. So it's a base that
Yep.
so many different things. I mean, I could, make a bunch of silver balls and graduate them down, or
right.
I can, add a wire in
Uh,
between to
you can
separate.
filigree in between, or even
Yeah.
texture, or
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Bamboo pieces of it and blacken other pieces.
That's a
Um,
great idea too.
I'm assuming you do different lengths as well.
Right.
So, and you could do more than one connected because as soon as you put sort of long, short or short, long, you get some variations. You can do reversed sets. You can do just either chain linked or the hinge that I showed that Alex had taught, the saddle hinge. You could do
Right.
saddle hinges between a few of them, and that'd make for some really interesting movement.
That's a good idea too. As a matter of fact, my first inclination is what make it end like here, so there's
Yeah.
equal, and then however I want to attach, have something come down from the bottom.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
in that sense, because I do like the long ones. Hoops are popular with a lot of people. Things
Yep.
that are longer have less, right? Because it depends on the shape of your face, and it's very rigid when it's this long and no other.
Well, it's very rigid because you're doing them as posts, right? As soon as you change them to have a wire or connector, or for example, another stone as the post, and then either jump ring or hinge connectors below them, then you suddenly add more movement, at least forward back, if not
Right, right.
directions.
Those are all really good suggestions too.
There's a ton of things you can do with that, so
Yeah, well, that's why something like this is really fun because you can sit and in an afternoon make 10 pairs of something like this and then vary them. And
then
it's
figure out what you want to do.
a mini collection that you don't have a lot invested in, but when you put them together, they present well,
Right.
Yep,
you know?
yep. I could also see twisted wire versions of them,
Yeah,
pattern wire versions of them.
yeah,
Anybody
yeah.
else? Anybody else have other ideas for this one? See people reaching for their mics potentially. Carmen has trying to say something, or Diane.
I was thinking that they might make great bracelets, like if you shaped it to a bracelet and then
Yep,
added a connector, like a disc to each side, so that you would have that connector and then the bottom would be that shape. I think that would be a pretty bracelet as part of your collection.
yep.
Sorry about the
Are you thinking?
saxophone in the background too.
Didn't even hear it. Are you
No.
thinking
Okay,
of like
good.
a cuff that has a center connector disc,
Yeah,
or are you
so it
thinking
would
of
be
full?
oval, or maybe a small disc on each
Yep,
side connected so that it gives some movement. And then the other earring, you could just connect it the other way, make a full
gotcha.
bracelet, and then
That's
just a
good.
little clasp.
I mean,
Very nice.
I was going to say you could take something, I'd probably make it a wider, shorter oval, but then you could, like you say, you could either have a solid piece that's that shape and then links in between that are open that you could do all sorts of things with. So that I hadn't really thought of what other uses in that sense. I mean, you could also go to like ring kind of things. And so,
Necklace, of course,
Hmm.
links, and think about what happens. The difference between just connecting them and connecting them overlapping. So there's different ways to do that, that you could
Right,
have some crossing movement between the
right,
points on the sets.
right. Okay. Well, there you go. All of a sudden, this simple thing has a lot of potential, just by lengthening, shortening, widening, and putting in different positions. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Well,
And
when we talked last time, I know we have been really enjoying everything you were showing us, Rachel. And you were
yeah,
like, "Well, come on, guys, I want to see something." So today I said, "Okay, I'm going to dig through the box and I'm going to find a few things to motivate me, and,
good.
and so you won't feel like we're not participating
Excellent.
on our part."
I'm glad you took in the ask, because that was definitely something I wanted to see people's work before we wrap
Right.
this project.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything?
Can I just do one more?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I
That,
didn't mean to cut you off.
it's okay. That's fine. Okay. So this is a tongue shaped stone,
Mhm.
and I've just used gallery wire. I have soldered on either side a jump ring. I've
Yeah.
done quite a few different pairs of these. Usually I will that I make an earring, though I could make a pendant. I have a pair of these. I will ball up my wire and thread it through so that I can hang it. So I have done things where I put a bezel or a prong setting on top and set a stone in that.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to think of what else I can do up top that's interesting.
So when you say you ball the wire through it, do you mean that you make the hoop go from one side to the other? So it is the hoop?
Yes, basically I would take let me get my orientation. So I'll ball up a wire, feed it
Yep.
through, then make a loop to have a connector to hang for a pendant, and then come back down and ball up on this side.
Mhm.
Ah, I'm talking about making those into the earrings. So hold them up perpendicular to your face, or excuse me, parallel to your cheek.
Right?
Rotate 90 degrees. Yeah,
Oh, see,
right.
there.
So you just make the earring come
Okay.
through in the same style, but without the twist in the middle. And then you open up that back hole, that back loop,
Yeah.
and it becomes the catch for the
I,
earring.
I totally love it. Now you see that's why we're here, because I've made a lot of these and never once have I changed the orientation, but that
Hmm.
instantly does a ton of stuff.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
yeah.
that's fantastic.
And how is the weight on that then? Because that's malachite. Malachite's heavy.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I have a
But
lot of these that are smaller stones, but I have this, there's such a nice matched pair that I was like, I didn't want to make two pendants. I wanted to
mhm.
make earrings, but that's like the perfect solution, because I wouldn't mind keeping these simple. I don't need to add anything on top, but by turning them this way, and then
Yep.
I can do something interesting on the front as far as before feeding a wire through to make an earring. So that's
Now,
wonderful.
adding other things on top also adds to the weight, that is
Yeah.
a fairly heavy earring. But I would challenge you to we did it in the Cogswell project, the double-ended thing where you find a pair of two really interesting stones that are different, and you make a double-sided bezel, so you've got a tongue fitting out each
Right.
side. I challenge you to find a way that you could allow the user to switch the orientation, sliding it on and off of something for a
Okay,
pendant.
right.
Um, Less so for an earring. That's going to be a little more challenging to get the flip-flop, but it'd be pretty straightforward to create some kind of connector that it probably would need bigger jump rings than you've got, but you
Uh,
could consider it becoming part of the clasp even. I know Allison Antleman does a really neat clasp with her. She has some tubing that she's cut a slot in the back of, and you bring up a beaded strand of. She puts a balled up end on the end of her steel wire, and it basically slots down in below and slides up the tubing to lock in place. So if you designed it right, you could do a flip flop of that in some way, and
Right.
they can just change out the way that the cable orients.
Right. And that feeds into my idea that I like multi-purpose because people always are so excited. It's like, oh wow, I can get extra use out of it.
My mom loves the multi-purpose, and so whenever I'm selling a piece that's a pin pendant, I always say, my mom says I need to make more of these.
Right. Right.
Got
Okay.
it. That's great. Any other thoughts for her on the possible toppers?
No, in a situation like that, I mean, I sometimes I have the same problem, like when the stone is so beautiful, I don't want to really add so much to it where it takes away from the stone. So just keeping a simple bezel like that, I think it'd be nice to keep a series, a simple series. I mean, I'm not saying that it's simple, but sometimes just the bezel and the beautiful stone is all
And
No,
you.
I hear you. I mean, in that sense, it is possible to get too busy, right?
Mhm,
And then you lose the focus. So,
mhm, mhm,
but I think you've chosen a very nice gallery wire for it because all of the downward spikes are sort of pointing down at the stripes of the
Mm.
malachite in a neat way, and they give an opposite directionality against the stripes of the stone. So I think that's an elegant choice. I could see if you're going to do that different direction, you could put a gold bead at the end of the front portion of the loop through for the earring, so that you just have that little sparkle of bling, and then
right.
you can blacken the actual gallery wire to make it really pop, because the gold against that green would be spectacular.
That's
Um,
true.
yeah, or
Right.
just you could even gold kimbu the top of the bezel so that it's a little bright spot that shows up as people are looking down at the ear. Um, little amounts of bling.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's one of the things that I like to do in that sense, right? For a teeny bit of gold scrap, put it in a ball. Well, it's 14 karat gold, you know? Nope.
Hmm.
So
Yep, this
that,
goes up.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
just they're $6,000 earrings now.
Right.
That,
Okay. Anything else, or is that the set?
no, but that's so wonderfully helpful. And I really thank everyone for your input because I'm going to try and get motivated. So before this wonderful series ends, which I've truly enjoyed, I'll have something else to show.
Good. That's what I want to hear. Pull it out of the box of unfinished things.
That's right.
Anybody else have anything they want to share or have need some help on?
I have
Carmen's been
something.
busy with shows.
I
Yes.
know I've been busy with shows, so that's good. But I do have something that I pulled out of, like you said, unfinished.
Yeah.
So, I do things with people.
Hmm.
So these are all already tarnished, and I've been kind of stuck because they're so flat. So they're like, that's a person with a lot of hair in the hands. And
And what do you want to make these into?
I've
Pins
been
or?
I've been stuck. I just don't know. I sought it out and they weren't really motivating me because it didn't really look like people per se.
Carmen, are you on Pinterest at all?
No. Oh
Okay.
yeah, I am. I
Well, I
am.
haven't been on a long time. I was scrolling today and I saw a couple of pieces of work that had people that were arranged into a neck collar. So, and it looked great. So you might want to check that out. And they
So
just had them overlapping and then, draping it up.
mm-hmm.
I thought it was cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love to see a necklace full of people going in all different directions and holding hands or whatever the connector points are. But you're asking for how do
That
you get a little more 3D out of it?
I think
You
so.
could layer it on something that's, patterned or something.
I
You
Yeah.
I was
could,
thinking layering as well, but I was thinking layering with just slight elements that imply some of the shapes that you're not seeing. Like,
Right.
is there a bikini bottom on one of them, or a glove or something that just pulls out that emphasizes the shape.
So like a little skirt behind it or something,
I was
or
I was thinking figurative components that are just evocative of it. Like, is that supposed to be a figure of somebody with their legs sort of half crossed? Is that what I'm seeing?
yeah, yeah.
So you can go very provocative, and there's a groin line where you could just put the barest hint in brass or something of a shape of a V, and then the similar thing to imply breasts or whatever you want to do. Or you could actually do paper doll style and stack up. And in fact, you could probably design it in a way that somebody could switch out outfits so that they get
Oh,
slightly different looks, right? If you
that would
did
be
something,
lovely.
right?
Like the
You do something with
dolls,
that.
right? Oh,
Exactly.
yeah,
You'd have to make some kind of peg
dolls.
system, maybe looking into getting some rubber grommets that you'd put on as holders. But if you're interested in that kind of thing, I would say look at what's used for gauged ears. They're sort of like giant, thick, round rubber bands that have very little stretch, but just enough that you can put them wherever you've got a gauged ear to hold it in place. And so they come in clear and black and maybe other colors these days, but those are the two that I found. Um, and so you could create some kind of switch on and switch out your jewelry, buy components.
Oh, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But what other dimensional things do folks use to bring depth besides the obvious hollow forms that I know and love?
Such a
Texture, you could do, yeah, I was gonna say a cuff, but you could do the cuff not putting it on wires, but simply out of the people. And you could, piercing will give you dimension, forming, right? So you put some curvatures in that, various places, ways. Piercing will give it dimension. But I
Chasing and
definitely think,
repoussé.
don't you think texture, whether, I mean, you've already cut these out, you probably don't want to roll them to get that texture. And that's one way to get what I find is the most interesting textures, as opposed to just like a hammer texture of, that's very plain.
I
Um,
could
You can chase it.
sandblasting texture. So
yeah.
if you did templates of again that implied shape of clothing or something and sandblast all the rest of it or sandblast the
Mhm.
clothing part. Sorry, I heard a hammer and then something else. Betsy, was that you?
Oh, I said, yeah.
Chasing chasing
My
and
mind,
repoussé?
my mind is like a sieve today. Um, you can use chasing, just a little bit of chasing, very light. Just
Mhm.
And if you're
Mhm.
one of those folks like me who doesn't really enjoy chasing because of the pitch factor, know that you can also
I
get
use
modeling clay
yeah,
and
that's
do
what I
basic
use.
chasing in modeling clay, and it's a lot cleaner. Still have to anneal and degrease and stuff like that, but
Hard modeling clay
yeah,
is what I use because I can't stand the pitch stuff.
So like plasticine.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's usually like a dark purple, I mean dark reddish clay-like color, little bit greasy feeling.
I can't think of the names, but there's two different basically plastics that setters use. One's gray and the other one's like the,
jet set are you talking
yeah,
about?
yes, jet
That's
set.
set up for
And
thermoplast.
yeah, those two are easy to use too. The one you just heat up and form it
Okay.
however you want.
So those both harden enough that they're a little harder to chase and repoussé against. They're great if you want to try and put down texture, but they're not going to divot in to the degree that the plasticine would.
That makes
Both
sense.
worth playing with. But yeah, I tend to think of the jet set and so on as more of a stone setting, like hold it in place kind of thing. Good if you want to try and texture. Like the hammer, if you have a hammer hand piece, you
Mhm.
could go gangbusters and putting in your own texture. Like take a look again at Alex's stuff where he's doing that really beautiful, detailed, tiny pinpoint hammer texturing.
And do you have any stamps?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can, you can create all sorts of patterns with that and define areas for sure, like along the clothing idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Flavors.
I think that's a great
Yeah,
direction.
I use this. It's Roma Plastilina, and you can get it in 4 different hardnesses. And it's modeling clay, but it's
Mm-hmm.
very hard.
And
And I'm pretty
Betsy,
sure I got it at Michael's or something.
can you put it up to the camera again? I didn't quite
Sorry.
see it, or spotlight her just alone.
Higher.
Yeah, hang on a sec.
Oh, got it. Okay. Thank
Is that
you.
enough?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, thank you.
So Carmen, another thing that I had seen was people cutting out parts of tins, like tin cans or tin boxes, and different with different colors in it, and you can cut out that shape and rivet that to the top of your people that bring some color.
Mm-hmm.
If you're
Paper.
interested in some really cool ways to attach that kind of stuff, check out Harriet Estelle Berman's work. She does some
Mhm.
really elegant like visibly visual riveting layers, and she
Or,
makes hollow forms with the tin.
who was that, Rachel?
Harriet Estelle Berman. She's quite a character, and she's got really lovely, very vivid pop art style hollow form, giant constructed jewelry. And her Harriet is spelled a little unusually. It's Harriee, I think, not two T's. She's on the board. I can't remember whether she's president or one of the other positions down at San Francisco Metal Arts Guild.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about because I did
Yeah.
A Zoom session where she was there and she showed her
Mhm.
big sculpture piece.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you
Rachel,
could,
But I mean, sorry, go ahead.
spell her last name.
Berman,
Okay.
Berman, but she uses her middle name as well. So Harriet Estelle, Estelle, I think. And what I'm particularly enamored of is she does these really elegant little sort of castellations that she's using as her rivet points. So she's instead of hiding the connection inside, she's putting it as part of a decorative element on the outside of the bracelets. In particular, on the bracelets, I saw it.
I'll have to look her up.
you
Thank
could
you.
also use colored aluminum too, depending
Yeah.
on, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
might really get into aluminum and the aluminum coloration process, which is some pretty heavy duty chemicals, but the color range you can get is pretty incredible. Aluminum also chases really, really well. Gal that you can look at for some of the possibilities on that is Mandy Allen, who does a really evocative set of primarily floral work, but she does both sculptural and jewelry art. And her color palette is just incredible. Plus, it's a lot cheaper than silver and gold.
I'm always
And
into
you
that.
can, there's a wide range of already pre-colored aluminum blanks.
Yep.
You can also get titanium or niobium
Right.
sheets and stuff. Niobium, I think, is more expensive.
And I
And
made the mistake of trying to,
one of them is cheaper and one of them is fairly expensive.
they're also, those two are not as malleable and they can only really be riveted. They can't be soldered.
Oh, yeah.
So I made the mistake of trying to do some chasing on a piece of, must have been niobium. Yeah,
Hmm.
that didn't work.
Oh,
No, you get good colors, but
You do,
yeah,
yeah.
no, you
Yeah, I
can't
got some
really.
some mild dapping on it after a lot of work, and that was about it.
well,
But
thank
it
you.
does
Yeah,
just doesn't have the springy response of silver.
I got some
Um,
great ideas now.
Good.
So my mind's been somewhere else and I look at it and it's just like when you do shows, sometimes like you can only put so much energy
Yeah.
in your
It's a lot
studio
of people
sometimes.
time.
Yeah, it
But
is. It is.
your booth has been looking amazing, and it looks like you've been selling the sculpture and the jewelry, which is super cool.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Ah,
Yeah, finally,
I love
I
your
think I got
sculpture
it
stands.
down. Oh, thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Anybody else have something they want to share? Yes. Okay, I'm seeing a nod from Wendy. What are we getting from Wendy?
Well, you talk about you making your clasps book
Yep.
and interchanging. I pulled out my, what is it, 4,000 years of clasp,
Hmm.
and such an interesting book. And the reason I was doing that is because, like the rest of the group, I was trying to figure out something where it would be interchangeable. You know, how do you interchange um, a necklace? And I was trying to figure out how to do a rivet hinge pendant where you could just lift up that hook and put another element on.
Yep.
So let me turn
Did
this
you
to,
find anything?
no, that's why I'm
Oh,
here.
okay. Well, I have an idea for you that we'll show you in a minute.
So this is what
Uh,
I've been working on with
uh-huh.
thinking of maybe doing a T and supporting it that way. And then I came up with let's do an interchangeable. So then I got going in that direction and just was trying to think of how to do that.
So are you thinking that you'd keep the T on and swap beads in and out?
No, I was thinking of, and I haven't had time to, yeah, I was thinking of not keeping the T on, but doing like a pearl clasp,
Okay.
like a dome one, and
Yep.
then, interchanging stones down there.
Notice how she casually shows off the spectacular gold necklace she's been
Yeah,
working on.
really.
Well,
Oh, this old thing?
this whole thing. Well, Rachel knows the journey. Rachel, here's
Yeah.
here's the carpeting,
Oh dear.
but we won't go there. All's good.
Yeah. But you got it clean. That's what counts.
So
So how, in a perfect world, how does that bead hang relative to the necklace, or how and where?
how does it what? I
How
don't
and where? Like, what's its position? What's its orientation? And what's its relative spacing to the necklace? Are you trying to put it across the chain? Are you trying to put it below the chain?
below the chain.
Okay.
Something
So
here.
somewhere about where that was. Okay.
Yeah.
And are the wires already built in, or was that just you playing with ways to connect?
No, it was I soldered those in.
Okay.
So that was with Jeanette Kane's.
Yeah. It's a gorgeous bead.
Yeah.
Um, so you want it running across rather than hanging
Across.
down, which is what you probably were thinking of when you put the wires in.
Yeah. And that was what the decision, my daughter, I would call her at the spot and she said, I think I'd like it going across. So that's why we did it that way. And I haven't done anything on the hooks on the back. I
Yep.
was trying to think of a S hook or something, but I just wanted to solve this problem first.
As I mentioned in our email chain, I think that it's deserving of something a little fancier than an S hook when you put that much into it.
Yeah.
But it's an S hook isn't a bad thing.
Well,
It's
I
just
did. I say
you've
that
done a
because
lot.
that's what Jeanette did on hers.
Yeah, yeah.
Jeanette Case.
Did
So,
she do it in gold?
huh?
Was she doing it? Was she working in gold or was she working in silver?
Gold.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, it certainly is a functional clasp for this kind of thing. It's whether you want something fancier for it. There's also, so the thing I'll show you that I think might help you with a connection mechanism, it may or may not work as both a clasp and as a bead dangle. The challenge is you've got a balance issue that you've got to deal with on the way that the bead hangs. So, I'm assuming that you'd take the two wires off if you were going to hang it dead center off of the center, or are you trying to make the you need something draping down that those wires are running through.
The wires are running through, if I remember correctly, yeah. And, that was what the T-joint was about. How do I get that T-joint to split and go to each end of this bead?
Well, you could make a Y joint instead of a T joint.
And thought of that.
Y
Yep,
splitter.
you'll
So
have to
it could
draw
be
that
T'd
out.
up at the top and I mean, this is where like visiting a hardware store is not a bad thing, right? And it doesn't have to be a T joint that here, let me draw this one for you because that's going to be a little easier than trying to describe it.
Please.
A spotlight.
Yeah, the other thing that I would
Learning that. Hang on, I gotta
just
change.
say, whatever you do with your class, for all the money and work you have in that, you must make sure it's secure,
Yeah,
right? Because you have a heart attack if anything happens. So,
right.
and S hooks, no matter how well you do them, I would never feel confident. So
Yeah,
that's
that's my concern too, unless it has an extra locking mechanism on it. So we're talking about your chain going here and your bead roughly like this. And you'd like those wires to somehow come up and be part of the process, right?
You don't have to have them. They can be cut off, but
Well, I mean, if you want them, we should try to design towards what you're looking for. But what I'm thinking is if you do your T joint up here, and then instead of dropping it down to just a straight T, you drop it into something that sort of counters the shape. In fact, you could even follow that slight angling that it does. And then you're going to make some kind of tube element here and here so that it becomes a Y split. Now, I'm not drawing this terribly well today, I apologize. So this is going to be tube, and the whole thing could be a hollow form, so it could be constructed, or you could do some, like typical on this kind of necklace, very Etruscan, you could do a whole granulation pattern on the plate between it, or you could leave it smooth and clean, or you could emulate, on that, your bead is sort of geometric, right? It has not perfectly round, but this kind of build out that you've done to make it a little more pod-like. You could put some folded element in that middle. So it sort of depends on how much you want to emphasize the bead and how much you want to emphasize the connector. You could, I mean, you can always do something even smaller and literally just build the Y connector into it, and then the bead hangs down. But I think that might, like, you need to find a way to not overwhelm or underwhelm the bead. And I'm still not entirely seeing how your hook action is. It going to be literally
yeah,
there's a jumping and or something that it's connecting into? That
yeah.
envisioning?
Well, more food for thought. The good thing is that I took Jane Redmond's class over the weekend,
Nice.
and I have lots of foil.
Yes. Nice. Did you take it in person or
No,
remote?
remote.
So one other thought in here though is it doesn't necessarily have to be a jump ring. With those hooks, you might be able to just put a rod through the middle.
I'll put a what through?
A
It's hard to
rod.
hear you,
So,
Rachel.
oh, is my mic not actually doing what? Oops, hang on, maybe. Oh, no. I'm going to switch mics and hopefully discover that
Well, you
it
sound good right
improves.
now, so
Yeah, the problem is I think that means that I was on the wrong mic. Can you still hear me?
faintly.
Very faint.
Oh, phooey. All right. Is it back to being better?
No,
Okay, so I was on the right.
I'm hoping this is recording decently.
there you go. Now you're back.
That's
I'm
better.
back. Okay, well, let's see. Am I still decent or am I getting quieter? So, am I good?
Just make it like Rachel's mic.
Well, so I picked the one that is supposed to be the little fuzzy mic that I've got on me, but if it's
Well,
not,
you're sounding fine right now. So
Yeah.
Okay, I hope I'm on the right one. So let me wipe this and clean up the board a little bit. So if you do any kind of tube-like connector out of the what you've got slid across the chain, right? So if you've got a tube and a tube, whether it's a Y, whether it's a T, doesn't much matter. What you're looking for is some way that you're going to be hooking those hooks up inside of this, it
Yeah.
sounds like. So one option is there's a jump ring you hook it through, but another option would be if I looked down the tube, all I've got is a rod down the like part way up, so somewhere up here. That's just a rod across the piece or a soldered rod, and then I'm hooking it up and over. You just have to have enough room that when I hook the hook in, it comes around the back, right? And
Yeah.
then if you make it so that there's a little, you take one of the little rubber earring gaskets, then the person would put the earring gasket on the back of it.
Oh,
You hopefully make it snug enough that that'll help hold it in place. Because what I'm worried about is we bump into something with the bead and this unhooks. So it could be either that, or you could build in again a little loop that goes like I would put the loop probably like this.
so Rachel, you're totally gone. So let's leave it for another time and
Yeah, but
we'll
if I'm gone, I'm not sure you guys are going to get me wherever I am today.
I
Um,
can hear you.
huh. It
I can
doesn't
hear
sound
you.
like she's in an aquarium.
No,
let
no.
me um, let me turn off my mic system and restart it and see if that helps us at all.
Okay, it
So
sounds
I'm gonna,
good, Michelle.
yeah, but it's because I'm facing the laptop and I'm afraid it's picking up the majority. So let me go off mic
Okay.
and then back on. Let's see. Oop, no, not that.
Betsy, were you having trouble hearing her?
You're upside down.
Sorry, I'm trying to do 12 things at once. No, I wasn't.
Oh, oh, now
Wendy,
you're upside down.
Wendy, it's Renee, and I was having the
How do
aquarium
you do
sound.
that? Oh.
Hang on, I'm trying too many things at once. I'll get
Now she's
myself straightened out
attendant.
in a minute. Okay, so now I'm back to straightened out. Now let
There
me do
you
the mic
go.
reset. So I'm going to be off mic for a minute and then I'll be back on.
Okay,
At
I'll be
least I
right.
should be off mic when I turn this off. I'm going to keep talking and you guys can tell me if I come back or not. Can you hear me still?
Yes.
You can. Okay, so I'm definitely on the wrong mic. Let's restart these. And then try this again. Uh, it would help if I plug in the last of the plugs that I need to plug in. Is that one?
Cute picture.
Oh, thanks. That my friends Scott and Donna, who are professional photographers, did a photo shoot for me. There is my audio plug-in, not where it should be.
Oh, who made your jewelry?
Hmm. I'm completely missing one of my cables, which is why I didn't get the right mic set up, I think. Oops. Where is my actual microphone? Oh, damn. Sorry for the technical delay, gang. Seems to have gone walkabout. Hmm. This means we're going to have really mediocre video audio on this thing again. Let's see. Let's do the trick. So the problem that's frustrating me is that the microphone is reflecting that I'm talking into it, but I'm not getting expected response to have my video sources.
Okay, can you hear me still? Can you hear me still?
Now you're softer.
Now I'm softer. So that may be about getting my volume up. Is it so soft that you can't hear me? Or is it audible to you guys enough that you can understand me? Because I think this one that is behaving more quietly is actually the mic that I need to be on to get a good recording. Now, Wendy, you still can't really hear me? Okay. Try one more thing.
It just has a little bit of fuzzy, like fuzzy.
A little bit of
I'm not
fuzzy.
getting that.
Yeah,
I'm not getting a fuzzy, but it's low.
but it's low. Okay, let me see if I can modify that overall. That's my speaker. Input master volume is all the way up.
Yeah, my volume's all the way up too.
Yeah. Noise cancellation. Not able to be turned on. My voice is set. Restore defaults. See if that helps. It does not. I don't know what to say, guys. I think we're gonna have to put up with one or the other, which I think if I give you quieter now, we'll get a better recording. Let me tell me if my sound is getting better or worse or not changing. Can you still hear me the same? Am I
Yeah,
trying
it's not
to?
changing.
It's not
The
changing.
same.
Okay, so I'm on the right mic. It's just for some reason extra low for you guys today. Which probably means that the first half we will not get great audio on the recording, unfortunately. I'm going to stay on this mic and I'll just try to project like I learned in my theater classes. Even though it's weird to project when there's nobody in front of me to project to.
We're here for you, Rachel. We're here.
I
Yeah.
gotcha. Put your faces up where I can see you. Okay, so what I was trying to say is I want you to think about that connection point and how you're going to stabilize it so that it doesn't accidentally come out. That's going to be a combination of keeping whatever you're putting the wire into very snug to the wire. That looks like fairly thin wire, thin gauge. So I'm a little concerned that if it's not soldered in, it's going to be a problem. And even if it is soldered in, you're going to be your break point on that. The most likely break is that the bead will fall off because one end or the other comes disconnected. So it might be worth considering other ways to connect to whatever you choose to swap in and out, or switching over to something like a chain run through it. That what your mechanism is hidden inside of your bead a little bit. So you're looping, or hidden inside of the loop that you create in that connector T, so that you're running a chain up and then you just sort of scooch the chain along until the clasp mechanism is hidden inside the Y splitter. Those are all things I could see you doing with that.
Yeah.
But you may also want to have a different kind of connection altogether. So you were talking about ways to swap in and out, and that gives me a lovely intersection to what I was going to show you that I've been working on.
Oh, good.
Segue.
As you've probably seen if you follow me on my Instagram feed, I've been posting a boatload of clasps. And so this clasp in particular might actually be a mechanism worth looking at, both for the back and for possibly a way to hold something hanging off of it, right? So this is a friction clasp, and this is the opening point. But all it is a simple hinge and a loop, right? So it's connect and click. It has such a satisfying click. I don't know if that's here, that's showing up. I'm gonna click it near the microphone so you guys can hear the click. Snap. I don't know if that came through.
No.
Oh well, that's what you get for the noise canceling factor on Zoom. So yeah, just trust me that there's a really good click right there. And so it's friction based, not the most ideal for all circumstances, but for certain things, it's really, really handy. And as you can see, you can do a little bit of, where am I going? Here we go. Decorative bling if you want to add to it. So this would be a decent clasp for the back of that. You can also, on almost any clasp, you can come up with a way to add some safety catches. So you could build a tiny fold over hinge on either side of this that would give it extra strength, right? That's true if you're using it as a catch or as a pendant hanger. But as a pendant hanger, like the bead would be able to hang off of this. You could make it wider, and then the bead could be hung from the two ends, again, with that idea of a chain that connects between them, right? So the chain would run through this, and it would just be a matter of switching your chain element in and out. This could even be something that you make removable from the necklace itself if you do it carefully enough. But so that's one option. I think of the clasps I've been working on lately, those are probably the ones you've got. This one, technically, you could make this into something swap outable. So this I could see you doing if you created something like this that became a decorative element off of the base of the chain, and then all you're doing is it's literally a single jump ring that slots on and off. So this has full pivot mobility. It can go 360, right? With this little rotating piece up here. And
So it's
then
like a
the actual
swivel.
it's a swivel. It's literally a spiral. And so this is one of the most secure mechanisms I've ever encountered. It's not coming off by itself because it has to make its way all the way around the coil, right?
It's totally cool.
And so this is by a guy named Christophe, Jean Christophe. He's a Parisian. And he did it for that 4,000 years of history of fasteners book, the Tabakovka book, which is really spectacular. This is not going to be in my book unless I can reach out to him and get permission, because it's his explicit design. And unlike the Cogswell clasp that I'll be including, I don't have explicit permission to share it with the world. But this is my version of it. His version of it doesn't include any kind of end peg, and he did a slightly different version of the rotation device down at the base than what I do. His is a much cleaner, crisper, simpler line than the way that I did it. So that's an option that could also be a mechanism. It doesn't have to be this big. It can get smaller than that. It's just a matter of having, I would say, probably a minimum of 3 coils to really give you the support. But you could make it a kind of dangling, delicate element off the center of the chain. And that could be, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is the coil and the 2 loops at the end all one piece of wire?
The coil goes around and around and up this loop, right? And down the center, and then is attached to only this little double stone end that I gave to it. So there's this unit here, this tiny piece of tube with the jump ring is its own unit. And then there's a solder stop point, and there's an end point on the wire. So the only thing soldered onto the wire besides the bead is this little ring that acts as the stopper.
Okay.
And then the rest of it is freestanding. Oh, and the end cap, sorry, and the end cap. Yeah.
Right.
So what we're doing is creating a stopper so that it can't go too far this way, and a stopper so it can't slide up that way, so you get the pivot. And boy, the fiddly bit on this clasp is getting that soldered down without soldering and fusing this into place, so it still spins.
Right.
Because you got to get a close fit on it.
Okay. Yeah, that is almost like an element you see on watch chains where you get full rotation because there's the ribbon there, right? Okay.
Yeah. And the reason I've been playing around with this, even though I don't expect to put it in the book, is that I do expect to include elements of the connectors, right? I want, like, this is there's something to be said for having a freestanding, free floating clasp. There are certain designs that we will make in our lifetime where we need to have that kind of mobility. And then there are others where you very much don't want it in your mechanism. You want your mechanism to lay flat and keep the flow of the piece. Right?
Yes.
So, but it is a neat idea for possibly holding a mechanism, holding an element that you want to swap on and off really securely. This also is one that makes a fantastic bracelet clasp. I'm going to put it on this way because it's too long of a bracelet to be bothered. But as an element unto itself, it is actually relatively easy to take on and off yourself because you just sit here and spin it, I say, having now not been able to
That's
do
cool.
it, right? So it's one that somebody can do single-handedly as a clasp for themselves. And then getting it back on, it's already a fairly big element, and you're just hooking it onto the end point and starting to spin, and you're back on.
Cool.
Yep. So I really like this for as a mechanism overall for its technology, basically. So those were a couple. These other ones are not as likely to be useful for the specific of the gold bracelet, a gold necklace, but this is a super simple keyhole clasp. Simple being somewhat relative on any kind of keyhole clasp, but it is super solid, right? It's going to stay where you leave it if you've done it right. And it takes a lot of effort to get it back out on its own because it's such a snug fit. So this counts on tight fit both this way and in the slotting. And you can do other shapes, but it's based around a center circle point. So this is the shape that I cut out 2 of in order to make this clasp. And that is the baby brother or sister or whatever of the knocker clasps that you guys have seen, which is the hidden, excuse me, not knocker clasp, the hidden toggles, which is again a lock mechanism into a slot. It's just hidden away in a hollow form, and it has to rotate 45 degrees, 90 degrees from where it was. And now this one ain't coming apart. Now, this one, people have a lot of trouble opening and closing for themselves. So this is not great for folks that have challenges with mechanisms. In a perfect world, you'll see it's really, really tight. This is an almost done set that I've been working on, but you want it so tight that it doesn't really want to pivot to the corner points. And then one of the last steps, there we go, you can see the pivot. So one of the last steps to this is to twist it back and forth to burnish it into submission, basically, into just smooth enough that it rotates. So that's a good fit because it's super tight. The other one that I was playing with, I need to tweak its settings because it's a little too loose on the rotation. So I'm going to have to redo the peg position in the middle of it, which is a hard thing to do when you've got the rest of it all soldered together. Now it's going to find the right corner to get to too. I'm going to leave that one. We don't need to see it open back up again. But yeah, super fun clasp. And there's just variations on the toggle. I'm actually probably going to design a class that's either going to be a 2-day or 3-day that will work through 3 different types of keyhole clasps and put that out for next year on my schedule, because these are ones that are getting a lot of love. And then, of course, we have ye old hollow form clasps. And this is the set that we're going to be working on in the December workshop. If anybody joins me for that, a couple of you have signed up, I think. So the hollow form toggle, and I haven't finished it yet, but I'm working on a square version of this. You can see the inner workings of it as I do. And on this variation, I'm actually making a channel for the chain, because one of my least favorite things about toggles is how the chain rests underneath. It kind of bumps up. So, and this won't fit exactly because it's the wrong proportions for this one, but when it's here, I want my chain to sort of tuck up and under and slide out opposite. And that gives an extra stability to it as well, because it's kind of held in place against the body. So we'll be working on these type of clasps in that workshop. If you are interested, it is up on the website for registration. And we'll be working on the integrated box clasp. Now, we're working on an integrated box clasp now, but it's a little bit different than what I'll be teaching in the workshop. In the workshop, I'm going to show you how to build it all as one unit. And in what we're working on for the project, which we will get to momentarily, I promise, what we're working on for this one is 2 separate pieces that will connect together, right? So we're building them as independent units that we're going to connect over time, over the course of making the tongue fit in there and everything like that. Questions on any of those clasps?
So in your book, are you going to have templates? Are
So
you
the
going to show the
templates,
process or
am I going to show the what? What was that last
the
question?
process by
Yeah,
different
it's going to be a step by step.
tools and then templates and final piece or
Templates is going to be a little less likely to be in there. I might have a bunch of PDFs for the tougher ones, because what I'm trying not to do is teach people to make exactly the same clasp every time. I'm trying to make sure that you understand the steps and what your decision points are for designing the shape and size that you want to. So yes, I will have, if you're making one of this size, here are the measurements I used, because I have to give you materials lists. But I'm going to not push that, like I do, I know I do on my basic box clasp. I give that exact template because it makes it easier for everybody the first time they're doing it. I think I'll probably have those kind of things on some of the clasps on a website, free, go get them and take a look at them as part of the book. But the step-by-step, I'm hoping to have really intricate, detailed steps. Those of you that have taken my classes, you've seen the documents that I hand out for developing step-by-step on a project as you're working on it. That's what I'm doing with my time. Every weekend, I'm trying to get a little bit further on one or more of my clasps and write out the step-by-step, and then I'll be going back and refining it. So what you're seeing here are the quick and dirty mock-ups. And then once I look through and write up my steps more thoroughly, I'll go back and redo using the steps specifically to make sure that I don't have problems in them, and refining what materials I recommend, the gauges, that sort of thing. But my goal is that with the whole book, you're going to get a section on think for yourself, basically. Like here, I'm giving you the meat of it, but once you learn the basics, think about how you can take a left turn from this. How can you make it a different shape? What are the tension points that you need to think about? So yeah, I'm gonna try and encompass a lot of detail and a lot of photographs, because that's what I got the grant for. So I'm gonna have along the way photographs as well as the finished product.
So Rachel, would you go over again your last class and this new one? What is the difference?
So previously, what I was doing for my majority of my clasps class, which we're going to say a dozen times, and I'm going to get it by the time we're done. The 3-day version, what I was doing was simple to structural. So I was doing wire-based clasps and variations on the theme. So traditional toggle clasps and that sort of thing. I would always include the basic box clasp, the not enclosed in something standard box clasp. If I do a 3-day version of it, I pick one additional fancy clasp. So a lot of times I would do this one, which is the hinge clasp, where you're putting the hinge pin together. Or I would do the toggle clasp. I tried to, every year that I was running that one, I tried to do a different fancy clasp as the third. But these are often the ones that by the time we get to day 3, especially if it's a student who hasn't done the basic box clasp, they're not taking a whole lot of it in. So this is a kind of dream ahead clasp. And I have a lot of schools that don't want 3-day classes. So it usually is the basics and that. Why I'm doing this other class is because this is a complete set of people who already know the challenges of hollow forms. And I want to be able to give you some variation on what is truly a traditional clasp. Like, we all know, and many of us, if not all of us, have probably made a standard toggle. what happens, what can you refine and rethink when you take a toggle clasp to a different level. You can do toggle clasps with sheet, you can do toggle clasps with different types of wire, you can do them framed, you can do them hollow. So I'm trying to go with what can you do with the cool hollow form that uses the concept that you've learned in a toggle and takes it to the next level. And then same thing with the basic box clasp. We're going to go to the next level and say, what do we need to understand to develop an integrated unit instead of a standalone box clasp? And that's where we get into the funkier hollow form shapes. So it's really focusing on hollows as a concept for clasp mechanisms.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure. You guys know I love hollow forms, so I'm going to do as many of them as I can. And if I get to combine my love of clasps with my love of hollow forms, oh, so exciting.
Well, I love seeing them on Instagram. I love
Oh,
your
good.
photos, the process, and you're taking really good photos too, which is nice to
Oh,
see.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
The videos that I'm putting on? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a little bit freaky to me because a couple of them started going viral. So I suddenly have a whole lot more followers than I did,
That's
mostly
great.
jewelers. Well, yeah, it's also a lot of pressure. And then the last one, of course, is the John Cogswell clasp. I forgot to show my favorite, the knocker clasp of his, which is this delightful thing. Oops, I'm on the wrong camera. This one, where we have the knocker handle, right? And when you open this one, you pull one side that can come off, the other side can't.
I love that clasp.
Yeah, John, it's a beautiful design of John's. I'm trying to find ways to make variations on it that are not John's style. And so you'll see that this is really scrappy. This was me playing around with a square tubing version of it. The challenge is that I realized right away that this doesn't have the right angle because it's always going to want to go to the corners. So I'm going to redo this, but with the knocker going point to point instead of straight up and down.
Uh-huh.
But I really liked the idea of this sort of picture frame like element. And so we're going to play with that one down the road. I don't know whether that'll survive the book cut, but we'll see. I think I probably would put a photo of it if I have it, but not actually any step-by-step on anything other than the most basic of rounds, because this is already super complicated on that step-by-step. So that's that. And now we are on to, unless there's questions, we're on to our next steps.
Rachel,
Any
I just
questions?
wondered if you could tell me the name. You said Christophe, who did the.
His name is Jean Christophe, and he's in the only place I've seen it. I haven't even been able to find a picture of it online. It's just in the 4,000 Years of Fasteners book by Tabakovka.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And it's not a how-to, it's just a picture.
It's okay.
Oh, wow.
I never heard of him, and so I didn't know if he's somebody who you punch him in, you find out more. Or I'll take a look at it. That's a book I don't.
Oh, it's a book you want. It's absolutely. Do I have it right here? I probably have it upstairs because I've been pouring through it regularly. It's an absolutely gorgeous book, and it will give you. It'll numb your brain. You have to take it in small doses. There's so much good stuff in there, but what there isn't is anything about how to do it. So yeah, that was just one of many clasps in that book that I went, oh, I wonder if I can figure out how to do it. And I was quite pleased when I did. So here's where we are. Any other questions? Sorry, before we go further. Other direction. I'm gonna wobble my camera for a minute because I want to bring it better position for you guys. There we go.
How was your friend's show? Last time I saw you, your friend came to visit.
Suzanne was here. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful show, she said. She loves Portland. I mean, she loves Oregon. She got some good hiking in. I gather the traffic was a little light because of the fires that were nearby. So people were there were major fires 10 miles away. So people were a little loath to come out for it.
Mhm.
But she enjoyed it and she wants to come back to Portland in the future. So that's a good sign.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. That is the show that is my favorite for curation. I've never seen a booth there that didn't belong there. They're just amazing. Oh, I have one more piece I needed to get out of the pickle for us today because I wanted to talk to you guys about the connections I'm thinking about. Because I have been giving it thought. I haven't been doing nothing but clasps. But I'm still struggling a bit with the shape of the actual connection. This having it braided has really helped clarify how I want it to sort of lay out. So we've been talking, and remember at first I made these little sort of cigarette tubes that I was going to use, and I was going to bundle them together because I'm looking for something that sort of flows off of the point. And so I've gone through some iterations with the foil. And one of the things that I've come up with is this. What I realized is I want a point that goes to the point or else it breaks the shape. So I've been working on that as one option, and it'll get soldered together, soldered closed. I just haven't finished forging it out. So that's one possibility. But then I realized that was changing the overall shape. It kind of went with what my brain was trying to get me to do, making this kind of 3-slotted spot for the 3 strands. So what I like about this one is that it does, in fact, sort of cross them over to create a sort of triangulation of them. But one of the things that I've also been, and let me put that on the other side because that'll make it, I'll be able to see both at once. So I like this idea generally. I will have to refine the shape of it a bit more. But what I realized is it adds some curvature that isn't in the rest of the piece. So another thought I had was to make a tapered version of one of the half segments. And this is not obviously trimmed out yet because I haven't finished creating it. I just threw this together today. So building it in, and that way these pieces would all run flat at the start before they go braiding. And that by having another one of these components, it kind of brings the proportions a little bit more to scale. Remember that we're going to have this clasp up at the top to break that up. So these are the two concepts I'm getting, and I kind of like this ramp up model. So I'm going to have to finish a set out completely to decide whether I want to go with this. But there's something kind of cool to having yet another texture in here because this is going to get a sort of forged texture as I go. Any thoughts on this one?
Yes, what I want to know is what you want to do where you attach the strands to the clasp. Because I agree, the new element that you created that's more hollow form, I do like that flow, but the one that is got more of a V to it does echo some of the other shapes there. So
Yeah.
depending on what you want to do at the clasp, because you'll have the same issue with the clasp and how to bring them together.
So either way, I would have to come up with the equivalent at the other end too. So pretend that this is already running in with one of these to this end. And I would be doing that, or I'd be making another ramp.
And
that
it's
joins in.
interesting because I like what you're calling the ramp at
Mhm.
the coming off of the other hollow forms. But then when
Yeah.
I see this other element, that's more like the formed one at both
Yep.
sides of the strands, I kind of like that. And it's more a little more the flow, right? It's not as boxy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, so I think we're all sort of seeing why I'm wanting a point to point. It keeps the evolution of the movement of the piece. But yeah, I'm sort of it's a toss up for me. I like the flat version here. I like how that would come into the garage that would be there basically. So this would be doing this. because it flows the piece. But there's something kind of graceful about this kind of bird-like, beak-like, and it points down at it a little more elegantly. That's part of why I think I have to finish this to see what it really looks like when it's the finished shape. Because when I was playing around with it, I was actually just using, I think this is a little too small. It needs to be wide enough for 3. But I was using this just to see.
Will the wide end of the ramped up part sit at a good spot when
What it would
pouring?
literally do, the reason I started thinking about this was the challenge of getting all 3 into the spot. Like I was originally thinking, I get a narrower profile when I have the
Yeah,
3 stacked. That's why I liked this. This
right.
one is about what if I don't have a narrower profile and I'm quite literally doing flat before it weaves. So it would
I
have to be
see.
just wide enough. This is actually pretty close to the width I'd need to end up,
Right.
because
A-
there's only a little
And,
room left.
but is that going to sit up on the on somebody's collarbone, or is it going to be
Great
far
question. Let's
enough
see where it
up
would.
that it's not going to be interrupted?
So let me put it on. Even though it's poking me, I don't think it comes up too far on the collarbone. It would land
Oh, okay. No, that's the only thing
right.
I was concerned about.
But I do so one of the reactions I'm having to this version is it feels like it's hiding more of the beadwork. Like it feels bulkier, even though it doesn't, height wise, it doesn't go much further. It
Right.
just feels like it does, right? It feels cover up, whereas this feels progression. Um,
Mhm.
and so I've tried playing around with this shape chopped off, but it needs the point. It's got to have the point in order to make that flow happen and to make the taper feel like it exists.
Right.
But it's only marginally less wide and big than the
Yeah.
base, right? It's not, I mean, it's tiny, but it's not tiny compared to, like, there's only a little trim space going on here in the difference in the size. So it's a little
Got
odd
it.
to me that just having that extra um, shaping to it makes it feel so much more graceful. And I think that's what it is this one feels graceful, but different. Like it breaks the pattern, but it also flows the pattern because I'm already breaking for something different in the beadwork.
And I also like that piece when you put it up against the clasp. I really
Yeah.
like the way it sections off the beads, and your
Mm-hmm.
eye really then it brings the hollow forms together, but it also allows that to be its own element. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and I do feel
I
like I
think,
should be able to scale this a tiny bit smaller, like it's a little loose, so maybe I can do a longer taper or something, or a
yeah, I
shallower
think
taper, I
it's a
mean.
nice visual element, and I actually like the way the forming on that. You see the 3 shapes, and that really
Mm-hmm.
echoes nicely with the 3 strands. It speaks.
Yeah, that's a good point. We do have a set of 3 and a 3. There'll be 4 of these because of the way we have to connect them, but the 3 is emulated in the actual individual pieces themselves. So that might be a selling point. You know me and my odd numbers. I like me some odd numbers. Um, so yeah, I mean the other consideration I had was this bead strand when it's braided is barely long enough for the layout. So I guess once we open it up with the clasp, it'll be enough between the clasp and the connector point. Um, and this feels like I'm going to have to hide a chunk of them. Well, I guess I'm going to have to hide the same amount either way. But yeah, any other thoughts on this from the rest of the folks watching? No? Nothing? Okay. Well, then I will continue my struggles in silence between sessions. But
I have
today,
something. I have a question.
sure. Yeah.
I really like how that point connects there, but
Mm-hmm.
it makes me nervous. I don't know why. Like, that point, is it gonna, because it's so heavy, it's holding so many beads. How would you resolve that
Oh,
point? It makes
so
me
it's the, you mean you're worried that it's going to pull out?
the point itself on the bottom. How is it going to connect to the hollow form below?
Ah, so that is in fact one of the next challenges. It will not be this sharp of a point by the time I'm done. It'll be, so this will be all soldered closed. And I would probably end up, just because I'll need a little bit of pivot, I will probably end up doing this as a pivoting, balled up jump ring, not, eye hook down. Because I don't think this will make a good connection at a hinge, right? The hinge would have too much tension and torque on it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can do a small jump ring and a small, hook eye combination, that would give me the pivot that I need. So I would do, it's basically trying to keep a pivot the way that the end of the twist is, but not as fancy, right? We need the 360. So I would drill a hole in here and I would put a balled up, wire that
Uh-huh.
is going to move freely if I were to
Okay.
pivot this.
Okay.
And therefore it keeps the tension. So there's not a, the weight of it isn't going to add to the tension because it'll adjust its position if it gets torqued. But that question shows me that you have been thinking a lot about your integration, and that makes me so happy you don't even know. Because that's what your brains need to be doing, is not just what's going to look good, but what's going to function properly. Right. So
Uh-huh.
that is a great question. And it's one of the challenges, as I've said to you guys a few times, I've worked myself into multiple corners with this project because of the way we've been sort of designing as we go. Right. So the more you can give thought to that, and I'm not going to say you're going to have all the answers from the get go, but the more you can think about, hey, I'm designing a big piece, what are my weak points? What are my connection points? What are the elements that, I need consistency on? Is there a pattern I want to repeat? Like, I could have just put a plain old box clasp on the end of it, right? But that
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't look good with the flow of the piece. So some of it is form and some of it is function, and function should always win out over form. Because if you don't have function, to your point, this would be a break point. It would be a weak spot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, because everything looks so like massive by comparison to how you're going to connect it.
Yeah, between that one little
Yeah.
spot. I mean, it doesn't. If you think about, like, this is actually a fairly delicate little connection point at the
Mm-hmm.
hinges,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's tiny little tubing that's holding it. But because it's tubing and because it's got a rod down the middle of it, it only has one direction it can go. Now, if somebody
Mm-hmm.
tries to bend and push it, they're going to break it up
Yeah.
down, but that would take active force. And that's one of the reasons that we have two directions of hinge, right?
Right.
So that if somebody
Mm-hmm.
pushes at it, there's a point at which it can flow the right way, right? So that gives us, in fact, let me pull out the body form for this, because we haven't looked at it on that in a while, and it might help. My magnet decided to fly across the room and attach itself. I knocked it off of the left side of my bench and it went rolling and slammed up against this thing a moment ago.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so, man, it's a little dusty in here. I gotta clean my poor little body form. Get some fresh tape.
Well, I have protective dust all over my studio.
Yeah. All right, so we're talking about, put this back up until we can move it out of the way. We're talking about something roughly here. And I think our consensus is headed towards the more elegant point. It's in place. So this will probably hang a little bit lower than it's showing on the mannequin. Oh, you guys aren't in line with what I'm showing. So it's
And
going to
if
be a
you
little bit
were,
lower.
if you
Pardon?
were, and if you were to connect the other one the other way, how would you attach that one with
So
that?
this one I would probably actually end up doing hinges. And that would be a point against it because it will only have a single directionality.
Mhm.
Right? It'll only have this, which is at this point where it's going to hit, which is actually going to be a little lower than right at the shoulder cuff at your shoulder blade. It'll be sort of somewhere down here.
Mhm.
It still is going to be, you know, it has enough that it's not going to have too much this direction torsion. So it would work, especially because the beads themselves will have some flex. But I think I'm getting pretty quickly sold on this version.
Yeah, I just think it looks a little more reasonable. Because again, I'm just thinking I have a very prominent collarbone and stuff, and if it's only going to move up and down, if it's just in the wrong place,
Yep.
um, the other one gives you a lot more leeway.
Right.
The pointed one.
Yep. And then we're going to have this.
How are you going to keep
Right.
those stones like that? That's going to
How
be
am I going to
hard.
keep stones? You
You're
mean
going to keep it,
braided?
yeah.
Once we have the connector points into the tubes, that's part of the
Mhm.
reason we need the connectors. They
Mhm.
won't be able to unravel, right? They'll be braided in
Mhm.
Right.
place.
Mhm.
And so we're talking about over here, this will be something, let me pretend that I've actually got it only one end.
Mhm. So you would do it there as well. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Again, hopefully I can get them a little bit scaled down from this because this one was designed for the proportion of the front element hollow form. And I'd like something that is a little bit more proportional.
Mhm.
But I think that sort of shows where we need to go.
So in reality, you're not going to really use a lot of beads. You're only going to use like what, 2 inches or something on
No,
between.
I think it'll probably, so let me show this on me and you'll see where the beads land. I think it's going to be, it's the proportions of the body piece that is not showing well. So that this group of things only lands here.
Mhm.
And so if I want this hanging, so that's the whole pile of chains. If I put in the clasp, it's going to land sort of here, which is not a bad spot for it.
Mhm.
Especially if you're wider necked like me. So yeah, I don't think there's going to be, I don't think I'm going to have a whole lot of spare beads. If I'm lucky, I might have enough to make an interesting matched set of earrings. But we'll find out. Because I've also got to restring these, I think, since I won't have enough of the yellow cord. Although that means I'm going to have to dye the yellow cord to this gorgeous color that does such a great job of matching in. So I'm going
Well,
to
do
have to
you
get
have,
out.
is there some way you can use some like, I don't know, 3 or 5 millimeter crystal round beads or something to go into the connection so that you don't have to push the larger beads all the way in?
Well, that's why I do this kind of workshop with you guys. That's brilliant. Huh. Yeah, I might be able to make the whole thing more narrow and tapered if I use something smaller as the in-place beads.
Yeah, because
That
it'll pull the strand in, but you won't see it and you can make it smaller.
Mhm.
I just then I would be able to make it look like it could almost be the size of the loops could be what the bead rests on top of the real bead.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's freaking genius. See,
And
this is
you,
what gets about my brain. There are things that I just can't take a left turn on, and other things that I'm like, oh, I can
Well,
see 5 stops ahead of where the train is going to hit you.
well, you
So
can't know
that's very
everything
cool.
all at once, you know?
Well,
You
right. It- that's also a really typical way to taper in beads.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so
Yeah.
there, you know, were saying crystals, but I would also
Well,
look
I'm
into
just saying so she doesn't have to go out and buy herself a strand of, but it can be
Tapered
the
strand.
same stone. It can be whatever.
No, it doesn't matter if it's hidden, but what I was going to say is you might find something like there may be a seed bead that's glass that has a big hole, which you kind of are going to need a decent size hole because the hole in the stone is fairly large. So can to feed and continue into the cone. Using something like a seed bead that has a larger hole. And a crystal's very fragile, whereas,
Well, no, crystal beads aren't that fragile.
oh, wait,
But I'm also not clear on why I need bigger holes in them, because they're still going to be on the silk cord.
Yeah, and the cord goes through the stones she has. So,
right. But all I'm saying is seed beads come in so many different sizes. You don't want something
Yes.
yeah,
teeny.
true.
And
Yeah.
and
If I'm hiding them, it could
if
be
you're
anything.
using a crystal that is like diamond shaped, then that actually they could hit each
I
other and be more fragile. And that's where just a simple round seed bead
I was talking about crystal, quartz beads, not crystal, not a formed
and
crystal.
not a glass. Okay,
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
talking about round beads,
right. Well,
you
and a
know.
seed bead
So
is cheap. So,
Well, yes.
they are, but but for that regard, I probably wouldn't go that route because of the expense that's gone into this necklace to begin
yeah.
with. So I wouldn't want its fail point to be simple glass beads. But I think I got these at my local gem show, which so I don't use beads a lot. I really don't, because they're fiddly in ways that I don't like to fiddle.
Mm.
But I think these may happen to have been purchased at a local show, and therefore I might have some luck going back and looking for different sizes of them. And that's coming up in a couple weeks, so I can probably do that soon. But now I know that I should be looking for a taper version because, to everybody's point, what you're reminding me of is I could actually, if I can find a match to these of tapered sizes, I could
Yeah,
actually taper the actual visual as well down to the smaller end of the clasp, and therefore I can scale down, like these can be scaled down to the taper of the bead strand. I'm not
true.
stuck with.
And 3 and 5 millimeter round beads aren't that expensive. They're
Yeah.
not fancy.
It, the problem is it's finding these are all rutile,
Yeah,
or whichever the non the orangey ones are. Um, so finding that kind of stone that matches cleanly and has the same finish and polish is going to be the
yeah,
challenge, unless I find them. So let's get back to what the clasp, because we can work on that today, even though I can't work more on the taper elements until I have some more materials for those. And let's talk next steps. So last time we met, we had made the hollow form layer for them. And remember, we worked top down, right? In part because we have this added challenge of me having to fit in what's going to be the match to the excavation work, as I've been calling it, that I do to show that next layer down of texture. So these are my elements, and this is going to be the tongue end of it, and this is going to be the garage end of it, right? Because if it's this one has no room to be the garage because I've got stuff in the way. So the best it can do for me is become the holding point for the tongue. And so, and we have our tongue somewhere because we made that as our last step. Where did my tongue go? That's such a strange statement to make. I'm going to get rid of the necklace form. Where did my tongue go? It was out a moment ago. And vanished. Too many clasp elements sitting on my bench. time to clear some things off and dig down. Oh, there we go. I knew if I put enough stuff away. So here's the tongue that we started. And as a reminder, we did our first spring on this, meaning we're not doing a full sprung clasp yet, but we need to do enough to get us our initial lift. And what we're looking for on that is that it's going to spring up beyond this one, right? When we put it into the garage. So height wise, it's coming up and gonna go boing and push up against the top of this. So what we now need to do is build the frame of the garage that this is going to go in, which we will do now. And I actually thought I had built the garage frame first, but I didn't. I would normally actually build the frame and then build this to fit in the frame. So I'm going to have to do a little finagling. It's just a little easier to size, but I don't need much. I just need the height of my existing wall, not including the top, but I can go over a little bit and sand it down as needed. So I'm just going to get my rough measurement. And I don't need much. I just need enough to make a U shape that goes around the outside of this setting here. So let me get that cut out. And I'm using some fairly sturdy material. I'm doing 22 gauge for this because it is going to basically be the stopper for the rest of the action of the clasp. And let's flatten that puppy out a little bit. And what I'm looking for is something that comes as far back as I can make without going so far that it hits the back wall, right? So I'm creating another back wall inside of this. And in this case, it's going to go to this point, basically. And it's going to be a U that's going to sit in the middle of the width here because we could make a wide tongue and have it go edge to edge, but we don't need to. And the wider and stubbier the tongue is, the less spring action you have. So keeping this sort of this size is the most viable combination of springiness and also not being so narrow that it's going to get weak at the front. So this exercise is going to be one of measuring our shortest depth rather, which is there.
Rachel, is there any chance you could come in just a fraction more? No, lots more than a fraction. Perfect.
Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm marking out my first bend in here because what I need is for this to go to the back edge. And I'm going to do my usual when I'm cornering something. I'm going to start with, oops, now I'm out of frame, aren't I? Let me back up a little bit. There we go. And a little bit out. Okay. I'm going to start with a saw mark down my line just to give me something to catch on. And then I'm going to follow up with the triangle file. If I can figure out where my triangle file is. I've been like flinging tools all over the place as I do all the clasp work lately. Oh, I need a new X. Oh, where does that other thing live? So as always, when we're doing a good cornering, we're going to go back and forth from both edges. And we're just taking it with the triangle, we're taking it down to about 2/3 of the way to get a nice crisp corner. If we do a little less, we'll get more of a rounded corner. Decent. And then the last pass is done with a square file just to truly 90-degree it up. But we don't want to start with the square file because it will give us more than 90 degrees because our files take away more than their dimension, if that makes sense. And I need my parallel jaw pliers. Where did I put them? Parallel jaw pliers. So first thing is I'm putting this alongside of the cut I just cleaned up. And then I'm pushing against it rather than twisting. I'm using my hands and just using it as a lever. And I'm going to straighten out my wall and check my dimensions. So that's looking pretty decent. That is not. I knew I should have done this before. So I might have planned on having it come in further in. Yeah, I did. Okay, so we're going to redo that cut a little bit. See if I have enough material to do it from this. I want to go in further. Should have made my own notes better.
So what was wrong? Wasn't long enough?
Yeah, so this is why you make the garage before you make the tongue, because then you're making your tongue to fit the depth rather than the other way around.
Okay.
So what I've done is I was going to this point right here, right? And that is shorter than I made my tongue,
Okay.
right? So what I must have intended if I had not had to stop in the middle last session was to go to here.
Right. And
And
I
come
think
all the
that's
way.
where you decided last time. Yeah.
Yes, yes, but my notes are scribbles in red marker and they're not helping me. So we're gonna try, do I need more than this? Let me see. I'm gonna have 1, 2, it's gonna be a squeaker. Let's see. So I'm gonna try to go here.
So you're measuring from the end of the tongue to the post.
Yeah,
Okay.
in this case, because I've done them in the backwards order, I'm measuring end
Yeah.
of tongue to end of tongue.
Okay. It's just
on
hard
the
to see
short.
with your left hand. There. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Because that's the dimension I need, at least that much depth. And then I want to see if that's going to actually fit. Yes, that will fit if I do that. And then my across is going to be, and then this, the width is actually the thing you want the most snug in order to keep the clasp from sort of pivoting in its garage. That'll be my second, and then back to my first measurement. Yeah, I don't have enough. I'm going to have to cut another strip. Oy vey. Order of operations, man. Gets you every time. Take this off the end. That should be enough. Twisty today. All right, now let's try that again. We are going to get long. Definitely have enough now. All right, so take 2. We're going to put that first bend in there. Enough to catch a groove. Then the triangle file. This is again one of those places where I encourage slow and steady. I often rush when I'm filing little things, and it does not go well. Small actions. If you need to, pick up the file and put it back down, but I tend to be a fan of back and forth so that you're not adding lift into the equation. And then one final pass with the square. Now, using those parallel jaw pliers just to the outside of the cut, using my fingers to fold it up. Now we're going to check that that is going to actually, yes, that gives me garage room. And hopefully garage room. There we go. All right, so when we are in here, we're going to end up landing like that. All right, so now I got to make that the width that I need.
And do you have to solder those corners, or will it be okay when it's inside the box?
No, I'm going to be soldering those corners,
Okay.
tightening up the cornering. Yeah, but first I'm going to cut my second corner, because I may as well do them as one since I know the size I need, and I'll square them up after that because they're fairly squared as I start. Triangle. Going from both sides. So when I'm looking to the side, I'm just checking that depth to see if I've gotten similarly 2/3 of the way through. Then we're going to touch up with the square file. Once again, with our parallel jaw pliers, fold it in. And I'm going to take advantage of having the parallel jaws out to just do a little straightening on the wall. That'll make my life easier once we solder and square. And if you're feeling like this is really wonky, you might want to check it fully with a square. See how close you are. If you're way off, you fix it up a little bit, but we're looking pretty good right out of the gate. And the last thing I have to do, well, actually, I'm going to trim down that extra bit once I get it soldered in place, because that'll be easier to measure. So I'm going to head over to the soldering station for a little bit of hard solder in each corner. So we're seeing the right camera. And you're still hearing me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
I hope. Okay, good. That means we finally got the right combination. Let's see. There. I'm just doing a little pick soldering with the hard solder, a little bit of flux, and I'm just putting a beaded up bit at the top of each cut corner. And then I'm going to draw it down with the heat. There goes one. There goes, oop, there goes the other. All right, that stabilizes our corners a little bit. Quench it, and we don't need to pickle it this time because we're just going to be playing with it a little bit and then soldering it down again. So let's go over to the frame on the bench and trim it to what it needs to be. So I'm going to need to trim a smidge. On the front of that one. Smidge here. So what do I want? I want to this one. Oops, that marker didn't work at all. a tiny little bit to trim off of each of them. Oh, so close. A little bit more. I have a feeling I might have to redo the tip of my tongue there a little bit by the time I'm done with this trim.
Why?
Because I think I'm making it too short for the length of the tongue. The material itself is taking up space. Yeah, because it's hitting that curve, the outer, see how it's jamming up here? I have to trim it until it can slot all the way back down to the base. So I'm making it shorter than the tongue length will allow, or will require rather.
Couldn't you file that outside corner round?
It's not about the, oh, you mean out here?
Yeah.
Yes, I might be able to get us a little win that way. Let's see if we need it.
So close.
The bonus though is that it sits nice and strongly in this thing. Almost too much. Oh, we might have made it. Yeah, I think we're going to. So yeah, it's going to get past there. So this is going to fit nicely in there. And you see how there's no left-right wiggle room?
Mm-hmm.
And there's not going
Not
to be a
at
whole lot
all.
of pull forward. Yes?
Not at all. No wiggle at all.
That's the idea. So that's a perfect, I mean, that's the ideal, what you want is to have a snug fit. I'm going to tap this down a little bit and get it tucked in so that you can actually solder it in place. And in a perfect world, there's a version of this tongue called a French box clasp tongue, which has a double layer to it, or it's not a double layer, but what you do is you trim away a portion of the edges on the upper tongue. So like you would cut it. This pen is dying. You would cut away sort of this much on either side, but you'd leave the bottom wide, and then your garage door has a little step to it that only the top part can slide through, and then below it is the wider base of the garage door. And by doing it that way, that adds to the likelihood that it can't twist in its peg spot. If I can remember where I put my sample on that one, I'll bring it out for you guys again. But this is feeling pretty much where I want it. Forward, back, it's not distorted. The only thing is that I'm not, because I'm going up against the reticulation silver, it's not staying terribly flush to where I want it, which means my solder is going to be a little bit awkward. I'm going to have to flood it a little bit, but I'm going to now go and solder that into place. And I think I'm going to start with really making sure that I get my front points and my corner points, and then I'll worry about whether I actually need the whole garage to be filled in along the way. Are you guys seeing what I'm showing here? This
Yes.
stretch here where it's gapping. So if that doesn't get soldered down, as long as my corner points are, I'm okay. And it's all hidden away inside the clasp. So I'm not terribly distressed by it. And for this one, I'm going to have some medium solder, stick solder, because it's going to be fairly well flooded as I go. And I want to get in quick because of the reticulation material. A little bit at one corner, a little bit at the other corner. Oop, a little bit more than I meant to, but we'll deal.
Remind me what tip you're using. That looks like a 1.
It is a 1, yep. 1 is my go-to for about 90% of what I do.
Yeah, okay.
And now I'm just doing a little bit of flooding at other points along the way to try and get a little more solder point down. I know I'm gonna not get everything, but I want to have it solidly in there so it's not going to wobble when we work our way into the next cutaway that we're going to be doing. That'll make sense when I actually show you instead of when I just describe that we're going to do a cutaway. Not liking the connection on the front wall is not really solid yet. They need some touching up. Okay, this is really grubby, so I'm not entirely seeing if I got all the spots I wanted to. It ain't moving anywhere, that's for sure. But I think I may end up needing to do a little cleanup on the front line in a minute. We'll find out when we quench it. And now we are going to pickle it so that I can actually check that out before we do the next step, which will be cutting the garage door. So again, if I were starting this over again, I would do the opposite order of operations. I would have built that frame and then built the tongue that fits the frame, because it's a lot easier to get your measurements to match. But what you definitely want to have is, before you start cutting the garage door, you need your peg in place on a semi-sprung hinge, semi-sprung tongue, because this is going to tell us where are we putting the slot that goes in. It is going to tell us that I need to straighten it out before I make that slot, though, because this is way off kilter. Just the peg is off to the side. I'm going to straighten that out before we go further. And as a reminder, I've given myself way more peg than we're going to end up with by the time we're done, because it's a lot easier to work the mechanism when you're not yet finalized, because you don't have that full spring, so you don't know where it's going to land as it goes through. So our next step then is that we're going to identify the thickness of the cutaway that we need to do and mark the upright within that layer. And this is where it gets a little different than the traditional basic box hinge. On the basic one that I give you guys the template for in my classes, you're going wall to wall. So it's pretty obvious how wide your gap needs to be. Because we're building this garage inside of the building that is the hollow form, we need to work within the parameters of that. So in this case, I'm not going to be able to do it. So in this case, what I'm designing is, this is the other half. The tongue is going to come out offset. So it's going to be from about here. In fact, we can actually show it with the tongue. It's going to be coming out, where am I? About the top 2/3 of the tongue, of the hollow form, and going into the top 2/3 on the other side. And all of this is extra storage space in the garage that we aren't using, right down here. So this is where it gets a little tricky, because we're going to have to position things relative to the rest of the architecture around it. Let me see if that pickle is done, and then we'll take a look. Okay, so it's a little sloppy in there, but it's solid. So I think we're going to go ahead, and we'll probably have a chance to clean up some of the interior solder blobs as we go a little bit. So one of the things I want to start with is, if I can get my filing board out of the ground, my sanding board, I mean, we're going to sand it down flush because we want to start this exercise with all of our material as if it were hitting the floor of the work. What do I mean by that? As if I had a back on it. I need to have this as flush and flat as if it were already clean. And like I've got gaps here that I got to take care of. So I need to get this really flush down. But I actually have enough gaps that it's going to be a lot faster for all of us if I go over to my grinder. I'll be right back. And one of the downsides of having to go in that fast with the reticulation silver is that it sometimes wants to pull away a little bit because it wants to reticulate if you get too hot. So I may have a little bit of gapping that I need to resolve. Oh, I have a lot of gapping from that. Ugh, yuck. Except that it's not really gapping. This one's
Bummer.
confusing me. Well, it is and it isn't. So I'm not seeing any gapping from the inside, which means it's not a true gap. I think I have to actually do a little filing and sanding to figure that out. Let's see what we got under here. It may just be that side effect of the grubbiness. No, there's a tiny little bit of pitting along this front line. But as luck would have it, is it where we're going to cut away? Maybe. I think I'm gonna play with touching that up after we get to the next level of solder, because this feels like it may actually be just at the right spot. So what I've got is tiny amounts of pitting here. That's about where we're going to cut away the peg, and then a little bit here, but it's not showing at all from the other side. So I think that may flow again as we do other work. I'm going to go ahead and try this anyhow. So here's where we get into the fiddly bits on this. We need to start by saying, where does our peg fit into the garage? That is still not straight. Let me do a little more straightening on my peg. We are getting long. Yeah, we got a few more minutes. Okay, one. So I'm pushing this down into the material, into the channel there that we've just created, so that I can be certain of where this would butt up against the end. And this is what I'm going to trace. To create my window, my portal. And that is a really terrible tracing job. Let me get those straightened out. So the important thing is that we actually cut just inside of these lines and not very far in, right? I want to just a little bit at a time be able to push this through the gap. And I want it to just barely stop beyond the wall of the front edge. So this one, I'm going to take a cut just inside the marks that I made, as upright as I can, because I want it to be a straight shot garage door. I'm going to mark out both halves of the cut. Again, just inside of the marks I've made. I'd rather cut it shy and open it with files than have a really loose, wide open garage. This wax. Super easy to go too far with your cut, so really err on the side of caution as you're making this initial pass. So I'm really just getting past the wall, and then I'm going to cut across to meet the other cut I made and take just the itty bittiest little notch out of there, right? Because I want to make sure that it goes in, but not too far. What I'm aiming for is a little further than I've gotten, because I need to get just past the wall in order to make it get to the point where it'll pop back up. Do you guys know it? Should I be giving some drawings and stuff on how the pop happens, or do you understand the mechanism of a sprung tongue line?
I understand it.
I think I understand it. You're just trying to get it just beyond that wall so it pops up.
Yep. So it pops up and it hits this inside edge.
Yeah.
So I have the right positioning because it's all lined up in the garage, but I now need to go ever so slightly further in, which I'll do with round files and barrette files. Anybody else particularly want more detail on that? Or do you guys know
No,
enough
I'm good.
about how
Well, I'm
to...
good.
Okay, oops. Gotta get my tiny round files. Where's my itty bitty little round one? Man, I have been putting things away poorly lately because I've been just grabbing all the tools. Use an inordinate number of different types of files depending on the type of clasp you're working on. So really this is just an exercise in patience until you get the fit that you're looking for. But I do a little, I test. I do a little, I test. I can see that I'm almost where I want to be. Let me actually zoom in for you guys because you can then get wrong way. Go.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're seeing that, but it's like you can
Yes.
see the light beyond the garage door. I'm so close we can taste it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's do a smidge more. And I think I'd like to actually clean up the sidewalls a little bit. So I'm going to do that with a barrette file. Another good file, especially if you're working smaller than this, a chenille or hinge file, super good for getting that front curve. Test. Oh. No, I think it's going to need a little bit more still. Oh, almost. So it's working well on one side, but not the other. Pardon? Oh, hold it up for you.
Yeah.
So what's happening is I've got it just barely past on this side, but not on this side. So I'm either torquing a little bit or I just need to go a smidge further. I can feel like a fingernail can just barely start to get in between. So I'm super, super close. And the reason we want this kept so snug is that it's more of that, is it going to go further in or is it going to move around any? And the closer you can get it to snapping right into spot, the better. You may also see clasps occasionally where the peg is a little farther forward. Just remember that that makes it harder for your user to get the fulcrum action that they need in order to really get it in place. The longer the lever, or the longer the leverage point, the easier it'll be for them to get the snap. Okay. Aside from this being kind of an ugly curve that I've managed to put in here, I think we're there. Come on. You could also use drill bits if you're so inclined. Oh my gosh, it's almost there. Almost. My bigger file will fit now, and then nice clean. There we go. Clean U shape in there. I could see doing this with a barrel burr or something to get a nice clean cut in. I think I still need a little bit more. There we go. I may have to take a little smidge off of one of these front corners once we get the front edge open, but that's what I'm looking for, is it's going to go in behind the wall. All right.
But
And
it
now
hasn't,
we got to cut. Pardon?
it
It hasn't
hasn't,
sprung yet.
okay.
Yeah, because we need to also cut the little opening in the garage, right? We need to have a slot through which this can pass, and then we'll respring. I may still have to go a little bit further once we get that all cut away. And I may have to do a tiny, tiny bit of side filing. So I am really, really maxing my distance. Oh, you know what's going to happen is the second time I spring, it's going to run into the back wall. So see how closely fitted I am back there, guys?
Yeah.
As soon as I hammer this more to spring it a second time, I'm going to start
Oh.
butting up against the back wall. So I am definitely going to have to take a little bit more meat off of the front of the tongue, no matter what. That's okay. We've got a little leeway. But my next step is really going to be now making the slot. And in this case, because we've got such a snug fit, it's super easy to see how much I need to cut away, because I'm going to be wall to wall. Where's my pair of, that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to be wall to wall, and I'm going to be kneading it just to the thickest point of the piece, which is this stuff, right? That's that front bump is our thickness. And we're
Rachel,
going to go.
Can you move the camera out just a hair? Because we're
Sure,
missing part. Great. Thank you. There we go.
Sorry. So what I was measuring on that last one was, what is my thickest part of this, which is the little bubble at the end of the tongue. So I'm looking for that as my thickness of the doorway. And then I know my width of the doorway is the box we've just made. So I'm just making a mark for the thickness that I want to cut away. Messy, messy marks, but marks nonetheless. Let me do that with a Sharpie instead. So I'm going to be cutting this material away to make the slot through which this will push. With me on that?
Yes.
Blackened area. Okay. This is one of the more challenging little saw exercises, because you have to cut it without cutting other things along the way. So it is perfectly acceptable to file instead, if you feel more comfortable. But you'll see I'm doing sort of the side file. And once again, I'm cutting inside my marks, and then I'll file clean. There's going to be touch up no matter what I do.
What were you doing differently with your mic, Rachel? Because that was perfect.
Oh, I was putting my head down into my chest.
Okay,
We'll
could
do
you
that more
So I'm
often.
talking into my
No.
bra here. I'll show you what it looks like in a second, and you'll see
That's
why we're not going
okay.
to do that for the rest of the show. Okay, so there's one side cut away. Again, just inside my marks. Now we're going to get the other side, and then we'll do more filing cleanup. And once again, the reason we like this approach to building things is that we can pretend that there is a floor on the piece and still do touch-ups to our sizing. Other people may teach you and use the bottom, build the bottom first, but then it's much harder to get your piece in and out as you're testing. And sometimes it can become nigh unto impossible because you don't have enough spring or what have you. And so it won't move out. Oh, it's such an awkward position though. Come on, so close.
Says the woman who talks into her bra.
Right? Yeah, the poses that I have to go into to be able to show you guys anything instead of like usually I would be filing and sawing over here and everything would be hidden. But in order to get the camera view. Okay, so we
So this,
have a garage. Sorry, go ahead.
no, this, I was just going to say, this isn't the entertainment channel then?
So what you can see is that I need to do a little filing cleanup because it's about the right thickness, but not the right width. I need to take, I've got a little bit of a bubble on each side. So I'm just going to take my barrette files and really clean the heck out of these to get them flush to the wall that we built on the inside. Could have cut a little closer with the saw, Rachel. I'm running up against a combination of lumpy solder bits and not having sawed over quite far enough when I did my sawing pass. Too wide still. See the side that is still lumpy. Bigger file. Oh, I'm going to have to take a little bit off the edges of the tongue, which is the easy part to file. It's just side filing because it is so snugly fitted that it doesn't want to make it past the opening. Whoa. Okay, you can see how close we are to actually fitting in there, that I can jam it in when I move past the opening. But, well, there's my click at least. So it fits, it's locked in. I need more room both up, down, and at the front opening. So I've got a really, really good fit beyond the opening, but I've got a little tiny bit of warp up towards the front. See if I can just straighten some stuff and improve that. Yeah, my problem is still right at the gate. It's too narrow right there. And then the action gets me past it. And you can see, so I can actually show you that If we had a lid on it, we'd be fitted in there, right? We've popped up, we've clicked through enough, and look at how sweetly snug. Zoom in for this one because you can see it's really, really, oh, wrong way. There we go. So we are just at the end of the cut we made. We are just popped in, and we are just at the tail end, which means I am going to have trouble when I get, when I hammer it out a little bit more. But where I'm getting stuck is right at this corner that oops, sorry guys, right at this corner. I've got it slightly too narrow right here, so it's catching as I come through. Right there. Right? And then once I get past that point, I get narrowed back down. So I need to do a little more filing on one side or both sides of the tongue. And then we will be good to go. And I'll have to test my fit up front. I suspect I need to take a little bit more meat off of this line. Oops, sorry, I keep going out of frame, guys. A little bit more meat off of this frame just because of the thickness. So I'm a little too deep on the curve. And the way that we're going to test this as we get to it, we are at 7:01. Are you guys okay for about 10 more minutes?
Sure.
Okay. If not, no worries. But I want to get us to the next major phase of this. So what we're going to be doing to test these, as with any, whether it's hollow form style or regular box clasp, your goal is that you'll be able to push this down against a flat surface. Let me back out just a smidge more. So you're holding this down with all your force, and then we're still able to get the clasp to go in without lifting up the front. And it should be hard work. Like, we want this to be a lot of effort. And I'm still, so the fact that I'm getting stuck halfway tells me I need a little bit more material taken off of the front. But if I can't get it in when I don't have a back plate on it, it's going to get stuck when I do. So I need to be able to pass this test of I'm flush against a surface, I'm pushing it in, it pops. That's the delight of doing the upside down, not finishing the back until last stage. Make sense?
Yes.
Any questions on this while I do a little more filing on this base cutaway?
No. Pretty straightforward.
And you'll see people who teach a style that doesn't build the inside garage, but think about what that means for the prong, for the tongue as soon as it gets in the door.
What, they
It
just
can
put a
be
hole in there?
Yeah, it's just the slot.
Oh,
And it's not terrible. The smaller the scale, the less that's going to be a problem.
right.
And also, the better you are at fitting your peg. So the fact that my peg is not going to have any left-right movement means that that will be the point that keeps it from rotating on me. But you can't be sure that you're going to get that clean a fit all around, or that it won't wear a little bit over time.
Right.
Let's take a little bit more off of that notch on the corner. Still a tiny bit that I want to get rid of. Okay, so once again, trying can it go in on its own? Yeah, I need to take a little more down from the top wall. One of the pain in the butt parts about this particular filing exercise, I find, is keeping your two sides equal height. I tend to end up filing one side lower than the other and not realizing it until I'm past the point that I want to be. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing this kind of weird sort of crossover filing, to try and get a sense if I'm bumping off of one edge or the other. Oh, I'm a little off kilter. I need to open up this side. So this is the fiddly parts. Like you're going to be tweaking either the wall or the peg slot a little bit as you get to this stage of the game.
So your walls are okay. It's the height that's impinging.
So there's the walls are good. The walls are nice and clean. The problem areas for me is that there's this little blob of over solder. You can actually see it. It's shiny where I've been filing. So that's keeping my width. I was too perfect on my side to side. So I need to get rid of the extra solder that's in the way. Then the next thing I was checking was, do I have the height I need to just barely get the thick part through the door? And then there's also the spring point, which would be hard to get pushed all the way in, but it'll get there momentarily. And then the last thing that I'm having is, because I've got this such a snug fit, when I'm hitting the slide in part, there's a tiny little corner here that's catching now that I'm going in the slot. So I need to take, now what I'm going to do is take this tiny corner off. And this is nothing out of the ordinary. You're going to have this on every single clasp that you do. Every single box clasp is you're going to go back and forth between the elements that let it in the garage. And try to do tiny adjustments at a time. So let's try again from the flat. Oh, it's even worse. How did that get worse? Did I go the wrong side? Nope, I just didn't take enough off the corner. Ugh, yeah, it's going, and it's going both height-wise and width-wise, but it's so tight on the peg that I want to give it a smidge of wiggle room, because if that peg ever bends ever so slightly, the user is going to be frustrated by it.
Yeah.
So just a little extra gap, while trying very carefully not to do any extra depth to it, because I still want it springing tight. Boom, there we go. I'm going to do that facing you guys so that you can see. So when we go in, we should get a clean. I got to push down enough that it stays. Oh, how come it's not doing it after it just did? Nope, I still got a little corner to take off. Okay, pushing down firmly. 75th time is the charm. Part of it is that my left hand is weaker than my right hand, so this push is harder. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's making me pretty happy. There may be some other additional adjustments that I'll do after I have to respring, just because it'll fit differently. But we're getting in the gate height-wise and positioning. So we now have the functional clasp, and on next session, we need to continue to have a functional clasp while integrating the tongue into the other side, which is all kinds of exciting fun. Because we have to get the proportion, the positioning of the tiny garage door on this side to match everything else. Right? So that'll be our next session, and we'll then finish up the peg and everything and do any touch-ups we have to do and close up the clasps. That will be October. me get the date for us. It will be October 15th. And that will be our last likely working session. Like heavy duty work. I may have some stuff to show you, like something fun, like a little bit of Kumbu on this if I get far enough for the December one. Remember that we will not have a November session, and December will be our grand finale, in which we'll go back through some of the things we did, we looked at on the original walkthrough of all the things that were in the box of unfinished things. And I will try to pull as many of the finished projects back as I can so that we can take a look at them. Some of them have sold, so it won't be all of them. And others are still in the box, awaiting the next time I get to 50 or more items in the box, as was the case with this round 2 years ago. Any questions, gang?
No, thank you so much, as usual.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You.
And so see you on the, what did I say? The October 16th date?
15.
October, oh my goodness, wait a minute. It's October 15th. Thank you. And I feel like I'm forgetting to tell you something. Oh, just a reminder that if you want to take the Hollow Forms Clasp workshop, that is December 6th and 7th. And it is virtual. And it's just a 2-day class. So that's open for registration if you want it. Good to see you, gang.
Thanks so
Thanks
much.
a lot.
And
Talk to
Have a
y'all
good
later.
one.
Yeah,
You too.
take care. Good night.